I can go on and on. Long story short, the Scorpio N is a complete package. With its remote engine start and temperature control, the new Scorpio N gives you a head start on convenience, even before you enter. It took excellent craftsmanship and choice of materials to match the power that the exterior portrays with the luxury and freedom of space that the interior promises. And it shows, doesn't it? Authentic Mahindra SUV, embellished with a lot of high-tech gadgetry, like the state-of-the-art infotainment with Android Auto and CarPlay, and 70+ connected car features, a 12-speaker system from Sony with 3D surround sound. Now that's what we like to call Daddy's Den. The cockpit domain controller Adrenox brings the future to you and makes for the most impressive and immersive in-cabin experience. And of course, there's more to this SUV of tomorrow. World's first SUV that has Alexa-enabled What 3 words to help you navigate with just your voice commands. So let's go to Velu. Alexa, take me to printmakers boiling sunflowers.
Wow, the Big Daddy is here. It is as big as the words of praise for it. I can feel its towering presence. Scorpio N is just not an SUV. It's an emotion that came straight from the heart. A strong foundation built on an agile and efficient third-generation chassis with best-in-class bending and torsional stiffnesses that provides great structural rigidity, off-roading capabilities, and high-speed stability. From the foundation itself, we have made sure that every ride is as safe as its dynamics. The state-of-the-art 200 bhp petrol and 175 bhp diesel engines deliver world-class performance. These engineering marvels make sure that Daddy overflows with power. But with great power comes great responsibility. Scorpio N emits the lowest CO2 in its segment, thus taking care of the planet. The engines come with 6-speed manual as well as automatic transmissions equipped with shift-by-cable technology to offer excellent gear shift quality and drive comfort. The electric shift-on-fly technology can transform the Scorpio N from a two-wheel drive powerhouse to a four-wheel drive beast with just a touch. The traction capabilities are further enhanced with intelligent 4Explore terrain management technology, Scorpio N is always game for every terrain. We have equipped Scorpio N with Pentalink rear suspension, including segment-first Watts-link mechanism, delivering best-in-class handling. So curves, twists and turns, here we come. When it comes to ride comfort, Scorpio N is equipped with first-in segment, frequency-dependent damping and MTVCL technologies in the shock absorbers that swallows all the harsh impacts and enhances body control and ride comfort simultaneously. This is as smooth as it can get. It's big, but it is very easy to maneuver. With its fantastic electronic power steering system, you are always in control. The feather-light steering offers excellent returnability, making your every drive a walk in the park. With so much to offer, the Scorpio N seems unstoppable, right? Wrong. Its high-performance braking system with an all-disc brake architecture ensures improved traction, direction control and vehicle dynamics, apart from ensuring absolute safety. Talking about safety, at Mahindra, we have always believed in setting high standards for safety. And the story continues with the all-new Scorpio N. Big Daddy cares. Packed with all these features, one thing is for sure. The new daddy is in town.
The all-new Scorpio N comes in exciting color options. And as for the variants, here are the details. Well, we are all set, and we know you're excited too. You'll get to touch, feel, and drive the Big Daddy at our showrooms very soon. The Add to Cart feature for the Scorpio N will be available online and at our dealerships from 5th of July. Test drive in these 30 cities will also begin on 5th of July, and the rest of India by 15th July. Bookings for the Scorpio N will open online and at our dealerships on 30th July, 11 a.m. onwards. Booking will be done on first-come, first-served basis and will also govern the delivery date of the vehicle depending on the variant you choose. Our flexible booking process is designed to empower you. Once you select a variant and color, you have a 2-week window to amend your choice before you lock in your Scorpio N. So go ahead, try all our fuel and transmission options, take suggestion from family and friends, and go for the color that complements your style the best. Further details of the booking process will be available soon on our website. Deliveries of the all-new Scorpio N will start in the upcoming festive season. More details will be shared soon on our website. And the price, soon. Daddy is going to give you a price you cannot refuse. Follow us on our social media handles.
The all-new Scorpio N, the Big Daddy of SUVs, is here.
Hello, all of you, and thank you for being here with us at this event today. This event has significance beyond imaginable for us. And that's because 20 years back, in June 2002, we had launched the original Scorpio. It's hence 20 years of Scorpio. And the Scorpio, in a way, redefined Mahindra and our story. Today, 20 years later, we believe we are at a very historic point. A historic point as one which is going to set a new benchmark in what a body-on-frame SUV is going to be like. We are going to continue with the current Scorpio because it has a very, very strong franchise. And the Scorpio N is, as you can see, different in every way. It really is all new. There is no component of the Scorpio which carries over into the Scorpio N. It's completely new, being made here in the Chakan plant. The Scorpio is made in our Nasik plant. They're completely different lines, completely different product offerings. Really, as you've seen on the video earlier, the big daddy of SUVs is here. I'm going to take this moment to step back and talk about the SUV purpose that we've set for ourselves. We build focus into our passenger vehicles business, and that is to say we are really here to create strong and authentic SUV brand. Because life is an adventure and it should be lived boldly while caring for the planet. And we really want to offer sophisticated, authentic SUVs which are innovative, sustainable, sophisticated, and which garner the spirit of exploration. We are here to offer adventure-ready vehicles with very high adventure capability. And today, we are here to launch one more product which is going to bring this alive. We announced a new identity when we launched the 700 last year, and we call that the Twin Peaks. That's the new us. It will come across the portfolio. The second product on which it's coming now is the Scorpio N. So what I'm going to do over the next few minutes is talk about how we are seeing this purpose of ours come alive with 4 customer stories. These are 4 customers with whom I have interacted, and I just want to take a minute talking about how much an impact our products are creating in their lives. This is the story of Amandeep Kaur, who lives in Chandigarh. She is a Thar buyer. She bought the Thar when it was launched a year and a half back. And she loves adventure. She's a scientist. But the real story, as you talk to her, is she's a stage 4 cancer survivor. And she was going through a phase in her life where she needed transformation. And Thar is the product which has enabled that. 10 days a quarter, she takes off from work and goes off-roading. That's the vehicle she uses to get to work. And she really feels that she's seeing a better version of her life because of Thar. And she could have bought any other product. She has multiple products at home, but the one she uses every day and to live her life is Thar. The second story I have is of Dr. Vani Parmar, who is a senior cancer surgeon at Tata Memorial Hospital. And she owned a 500 and now owns a 700. And she lives a life of adventure. But when talking to her, this is the vehicle she drives herself every day in Mumbai. And she enjoys driving it so much that she says, I actually don't care about the traffic anymore. The 700 gives me that kind of comfort, sophistication, but also she uses it then for off-roading and getting away. So again, living a life, and that's what we mean by bringing our purpose alive. Our products are helping our customers live a very, very different version of their life. And that's really what we are here to do, to create products which enable more and more customers to experience this. This is the story of Nikhil Bansal, who is the industry head at Google India. And he bought the 700 some time back. And he really, in talking to him, said this is a category creating product by itself. I had a D segment SUV, but now I'm able to use this for work and going out. In fact, when I was speaking to him a few days back, he was just back from a 9-hour drive from the hill station. Lives in Gurgaon. And he said, I am actually not fatigued at all. And there is zero tiredness at the end of a 9-hour drive going up into the hills. He bought, one of the reasons that made him buy it, he has twin daughters, and they just loved the sky roof. So it is the sophistication, the refinement, and that's part of our purpose. And the last story is about Alok. And Alok lives in Bangalore. And while he is a very accomplished leader himself, his wife, who also drives the Thar, is also the managing director of a fintech company. And they've got into off-roading every weekend. So every weekend he gets onto National Highway 44 from Bangalore to Hyderabad, and they do about 300 kilometers of driving out, off-roading. He does drive the Thar to work once or twice a week when he is in business casuals to work and not in formals. And the rest of the time he drives luxury segment sedans, and so does his wife. But again, Thar is a part of transforming the life. He had a D segment SUV earlier, but he said I could never really off-road in it. With Thar, every weekend we are out 300 kilometers. So here are 4 stories which are really bringing our purpose alive. I'm now moving on to a very quick snapshot of our SUV lineup, and you just see the market segmented out there. We don't play in the micro SUV market, that's 14,000 a month. In the compact, less than 4 meter market, we have a volume of, you can see 25% market share of a segment which is 50,000 odd per month, with 4 very strong offerings now. The Thar, the XUV 300, the Bolero Neo, and the Bolero. In the full-size SUV, which is a large segment, 63,000 volume per month, we have the 700 now, the Scorpio and the Marazzo. But the Scorpio N is coming there. And that's the reason we believe that the offer we are going to have is going to be really disruptive, because it is a product which is going to not only help us gain market share, but is completely going to disrupt this category. And that, we believe, is what over the last few months has taken us to being number 1 in revenue market share in Q4 and the second half, because we believe now we have a very strong portfolio of SUVs which are all helping customers find meaning and to live their purpose. And with that, to tell us more about this story of disruption that the Scorpio N is going to create, I'd like to invite Vijay, Pratap, Velu, and then Vijay to wrap up again. Thank you again for being here with us, and Vijay, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Rajesh. Mike. Thank you, Rajesh. Very good evening. Indeed, a pleasure to have all of you all with us here today. Rajesh gave reference to the launch of the Scorpio 20 years ago. And the idea was born at that time, 20 years ago. It was an idea of disruption. It was an idea ahead of its time. And that disruption at that time, as a product, as a brand, and as a proposition, was something that allowed us to think audacious. We said, let's go out there and take on the mid-size car segment. And that's what we did with the launch of the Scorpio. Has had a phenomenal run. Numbers speak for themselves over a period of time. And as you can see, over the 2-decade period, we've sold over 8 lakh vehicles and have very happy customers and a brand which is iconic. So now, let's cut to 20 years later. And just like the birth of a human, over 20 years, from the time you are born till the time you reach the age of 20, you become a full-grown adult. And not a single cell in your body remains the same over the 20 years. In a similar manner, The Scorpio N. Why N? Because it's a transformation of the product and the brand in 20 years, where while we take the DNA forward, it's an all-new creation. And it allows us now to take that audacious BHAG that we had to the next level. And we'll talk a little bit more about that before my colleagues come up and bring that to life. So we are talking about a product, a brand, Scorpio to the power of N, in terms of authenticity, design, performance, comfort, tech. But most of all, what gives us pride is the sophistication and refinement that we are going to bring with this product into this segment and category. And when you all drive it tomorrow, I'm sure you will give us that verdict. So as we take that aspiration to the next level, we believe that that audacious goal of ours, that disruption, is what we want to bring into the market, where we believe the Scorpio N will create its space between the C segment, so it will be highly aspirational for the C segment buyers and customers, and provide excellent value with a lot more to offer compared to what's there today in the D segment. And as the Scorpio N will come in, we believe we will take share from both those categories and segments. But of course, this narrative doesn't become complete till we talk a little bit about who is the customer. And I think Rajesh began his presentation by talking about who is the evolved customer who buys the Mahindra brand. I think you will very much agree with me that all the 4 names he put up there are global citizens in their own fields and in their own right. And we believe the Scorpio N is going to be another product that we will bring in, which is going to appeal to the new global Indian. The customer who is independent, wants to voice their opinion, wants to live what we call these days after COVID, a front-loaded life. They want their experiences now. They want to live their life to the fullest now and not leave it for later. They want to be in the moment and they want to enjoy it. And that's what we believe the Scorpio N will empower them to do. And not to forget that ultimately it is a global product for international markets, India and the global customer. The product has been put together, as you will see, collaboratively from our experts across the globe. The design has been done between Pininfarina in Italy and the Mahindra India Design Studio in Mumbai. The design engineering has been done between MRV Chennai and the Mahindra North America Engineering Center in Detroit. And it's going to be produced in this world-class manufacturing facility at Chakan, something that we will show you and have that walk around for you to see where we've invested to create this world-class facility, automated robotic lines, to be able to create a product like this. And with that, I think it's appropriate for me now to call on my colleague Pratap, who will take this forward and share with you how we take this global product as we launch in India today, simultaneously in South Africa, Nepal, and shortly in 2023, we will take it to many other focused markets for Mahindra & Mahindra. With that, let me invite my colleague Pratap. Pratap, over to you.
Thank you, Vijay. I think there's a film now.
big daddy of SUVs is here.
Thank you, Vijay. Thank you, Rajesh. It's a very difficult act to follow, the big B. What a pleasure to be here in this temple of manufacturing. It's really a temple of manufacturing. When I came here first, I was absolutely blown away by what the team has put together here, and therefore the vehicles they produce. You know, many vehicles actually demand attention. But I think the Scorpio is the only one which commands attention. And my first memories of the Scorpio, Rajiv, is that I was seeing this in the rear view mirror of my car. Scorpio was behind me, and I very quietly moved away and let the Scorpio pass. That's the power and presence of the Scorpio name. As Vijay and Rajesh said, it came on the design team after planning, after the briefing, came on the design team to really create or take all those words of power, of presence, of muscle to bring the big daddy of SUVs to life. And one of the most important thing about the Scorpio that we wanted is that if you close your eyes or even if you looked at it once, the first thing you would feel is its muscle. This is a toned muscle of an athlete. And this is what the Scorpio N represents. You can see from the sketches, we are sharing only a few out of the hundreds of sketches that were created at MIDS in Mumbai and Pininfarina in Turin. But each one, the designers were so clear that we have to create this massive impact with this vehicle. And you can see straight away some small elements and details like the Scorpio's tail is also incorporated in the glass. Again, many themes, as you know, we try. We work on proportion, we work on detail to bring that magic alive, that unmissable presence. These are again a few sketches from that process, but it shows you the clarity with which the product was defined by the planning team for the design team to convert into images and models. Straight away, and for this I have to thank Velusan and his team at MRV. What an architecture. I mean, I call this car-architecture, right? Wheels in the right place, pillars in the right place, cabin in the right place. And my God, did the MRV and the MNATC team deliver on that for us to put such a powerful skin on that third generation architecture. So straight away, it's tallest and widest in the segment. It's got a lovely long bonnet, which is an absolute signature of authentic SUVs. This is not a east-west engine, you know, this is proper body on frame, as Vijay mentioned, which gives you this incredible proportion of a long hood and a cabin that follows with all that power sitting in front of the driver. And look, and tomorrow when you'll notice the wheels and the wheel arches, all that muscle is concentrated and focused on that wheel to deliver that power to the road. The A-pillar angle, what we call the windscreen angle, is a very important part of car design, of vehicle design. And SUVs, as you know, have a slightly more upright A-pillar. Again, to get the proportions absolutely right. And the other thing is the glass to metal ratio. You'll notice on the new Scorpio or the Scorpio N, that ratio is very tight and very dynamic. Again, the metal gives you that feeling of strength and muscle. There you go. Now, as a part of our process, global design process, we use clay models. You know, how do you humanize the design if a human being does not touch that design? So we have very skilled craftsmen, we call them clay modelers, who actually recreate all those sketches that you saw into a full-size clay model. And there you see immediately that dominating front, and in the interiors, and we'll speak about it more, the top-notch craftsmanship. Everything fits beautifully. The sophistication that Vijay mentioned. Now, coming to sophistication, here the colors, materials and finishes become very important. And again, we've used really premium materials to trim the seats, to trim the door pads, and then a fantastic bright metal finish for the dual rails that you'll see on the IP, and you'll see on the door armrests, you know, this door grab. It's a real feeling of solidity, like the chassis, you know, Velusan's platform is almost coming through the vehicle to hold it all together. I'll just play a little animation that will show you some of the features. Aircon vents in the rear, of course. This coffee black interior, largest sunroof, this stacked tail lamp, quite a signature. It looks stunning. And of course the new logo integrated into the car, the Scorpion Sting, the big 17-18 inch wheels, and again the little Scorpio tail signature in the DRLs. Very purposeful lamps and that super powerful grille. That grille which I had seen and I moved away. And I hope the Scorpio N does the same thing for years to come. So with that, I will now pass on to Velu. Velu will talk about all the technical details and you know, what went in to bring the Scorpio N to life. Beneath this amazing skin, the magic that MRV and MNATC created. Velu-san.
Welcome to Daddy's Den. The all-new Scorpio N, the big daddy of SUVs, is here.
Thank you, Rajesh, Vijay, and Pradap. What a great gathering. A warm welcome, a hearty welcome. Before I start my speech, let me bow in front of you and then say heartfelt appreciations and compliments to the supplier community, to the dealers, to so many people and our own colleagues who have worked for this product throughout the COVID pandemic for the last 2 years. Unbelievably, they have chased the COVID away and brought this product to this stage. And therefore, let me take once again one more bow to all of you. Thank you. It's always said, Big Daddy. 20 years ago, I started my career in Scorpio engine development. I never knew that 2 decades have passed and the Scorpio will safeguard our SUV business. And the time has come for us to safeguard the SUV of the road, the Big Daddy, for next 2 decades. So this time, we didn't take a normal approach. We took a different approach. The approach is very different. This world has been changed by many people, by simple observations. The questions are always asked, do you have the competency to bring the best? Do you have the knowledge power? Do you have the facilities to bring the best? I have always found answers that if you ask powerful questions, you can always bring the best. That's the only thing that you need. Rest you can get from everywhere in this world. So let me start with my own personal readings. BC 330, when Aristotle saw, and he dropped to a big object and a small object, and he saw the big object moving faster, than the small object, and he wrote it. The big object moves faster than the smaller object, and that stayed until 1587, till a man called Galileo came and saw, oh, that's not the case. He was doing an experiment on friction by rolling small balls and big balls on a slanted wooden surface, and he made graduations on it, and he was standing and observing, and he put the ball, and the smaller ball and the bigger ball, they all reached at the same time. And in the graduations, he calculated, and he came to a number 9.8 meters per second, and the second you add another 9.81, let's take 10. So first second is 10, and the second is 20. This is always constant. This addition of constant velocity, he called it acceleration. That's how you still see it. What Aristotle perceived and what Galileo perceived is the power of observation. It's just that he made some marks and he observed. There was no clock in 1587. Then came Newton, 100 years later, 1687. It was a pandemic, and he left Cambridge and he went to his mother's house. Mother's house means mother's house. It was an apple tree, and the apple supposed to be fallen on his head. It was always a discussion, how can the small ball and the big ball fall at the same velocity, but the big ball creates a big impact and a small ball creates a small impact. That's a discussion for over 100 years. Newton saw apple falling, and he said, oh, if this apple is falling, there is a force. And that force is what Galileo found, the 9.8 acceleration, and the mass of the apple, that is the force. So he found an answer for the 100 years of discussion. Now this is a critical observation. So it is this critical observation that I am going to tell you how a Big Daddy can deliver you the best dynamics at 185 km per hour with 175 bhp and 400 Newton meter torques of a diesel engine and 200 bhp of a gasoline engine with 370 Newton meter. Believe me, I drove it in last Saturday at 185 km per hour in MSPT track, and I'm alive here. Nothing happens. Big Daddy is very safe, and Big Daddy, except the Scorpio name, we don't carry anything else. Here is what the critical observations that led to this transformational improvements in the new avatar of platform and body. Let me talk the vehicle architecture that gave these benefits to us. It looks easy that in the third row you increase your leg space by 85 millimeter and your visibility angle you increase by 6%, that's a lot. And everywhere else you increase between 30 millimeter to 50 millimeter. The shoulder width you are increasing by 3%, that is again about 57 millimeters. So the shoulder width is increased, that means wheel track is increased. Your leg room is significantly increased. I'm an 170 centimeter guy, that means in millimeter terms I will be 1700 millimeters. But look at, I have more than 1000 millimeters. So if you take this dimension 1000 and this dimension 1000, that's where I'm going to sit. I have 2000 millimeters. Isn't it Big Daddy? Isn't it big? I vouch you that you sit in the third row. You can't get such an excellent leg room in any other so-called D segment SUVs, full stop. But such a big car needs Aristotle, Galileo's, and Newton's, and Einstein that we can discuss later. I have a phenomenal explanation how Einstein beat the Newton. Tomorrow in Ambi Valley we'll discuss. Observation number 1. We always discuss center of gravity, center of gravity, center of gravity. Like Galileo said, stop. It's not about center of gravity, it is about the roll arm height. You have a chassis, on the top of it I put a body. What rolls is the body and not the chassis. So therefore what happens, the roll arm height is very, very important when you are driving at 185 km/h because the body is rolling on the chassis. So you have a front suspension and you have a rear suspension, and the front suspension is moving like this on a bump, and the rear suspension is moving like this on a bump. The center line of this and the center line of this, if you connect it, you get the roll center for the suspension, but that is very stable. It doesn't move. It only laterally moves. It doesn't roll. What happens is, on top of the frame, you have put a body, and the body rolls. What you need to control, if you have to get the leg room, you need to have the height. So don't worry about the CG. I'm not saying don't worry about at all, but don't unnecessarily worry about it. But just worry about the roll arm height. That's what we did. Our engineering team at MANA, in M&ATC, and MRV, they came with a brilliant idea. I can play with this roll center and keeping the CG in similar lines of D segment cars, and then significantly reduce the roll arm height better by 8.3%. The roll arm height, 8.3%, significantly adds to your vehicle dynamics at high speeds. I will explain you in the next slide how does that help you. What you see here is the cornering at high speed with 200 bhp, 185 km/h. There are two parameters that I put it here. The center of gravity that we always unnecessarily keep worrying about it, and the wheel track. There is a spring, the body rolls on the chassis, and there is a spring that supports at high speeds. Because there is a force that is acting on the CG of the body. Do you know what is the force that is acting? I just put the small bullet point. At 120 km/h, you have 6.2 tons. That's all. But at 180 km/h, you are getting to 25 tons of the load. Every % of improvement matters here. The centrifugal force that is acting is very simple. The force is mv squared by r. R is the turning radius that you take the car. V is the velocity. The force is squarely proportional to the velocity. So if it is at 6.25 ton at 120 km/h for ordinary D segment SUVs, for Scorpio N, it can handle 25 tons. It's the best. But you have to have certain dynamics to handle this. The critical observation too is that the reaction force that is coming here, the spring, this dimension is so critical. We have increased it by 40 millimeter compared to any other D segment cars to get the stability factor. Wheel track divided by 2 is the counteracting moment for this cornering force. So it's very simple for you. Divide it by 2 and take a ratio of this and this. This should always be higher than this. That's a critical observation too. As much as you increase this wheel track, you get a shoulder room, you get a stable vehicle, and you get 185 km/h capability. That's a critical observation too. So what you see here is 11.9% higher than this value. This value is 11.9% higher, but the segment is 10.5%. As I said, when you are driving at 180 km/h, every percent matters. And this is the difference between the best and the next best. The third, we discussed that the BIW is sitting on the frame, and the frame is the one that rolls. Which means now you know what Newton found, F is equal to ma, and the m you have to dramatically reduce it. The BIW, we took a call to reduce 13%. Our internal target was 10%, our team came up with a solution that they will reduce it by 13%. This is one of the main reasons why we have such a low forces at high speeds on the spring acting. If you have very high forces acting on the spring, please remember that you have to make the spring stiff. And if you make the spring stiff, then you will lose the ride. It's not easy. So what we did, I will explain you in the BIW section, but just trust me that it is 13% lighter. Just you notice one thing, the BIW weight is about 300 kgs and the frame weight is about 200 kgs. Put together is 500 kilos of total 2000 kilos of vehicle. It's 30%. It's 25%, right? But the vehicle weight is 1900 kilos, so it is about 26%, 28%. If you control this, you control the affordability, you control the material cost, and therefore we have to completely redesign the frame and BIW. As I said, the name is carry forward, and my name is Velusamy Ramasamy. Ramasamy is my grandfather, and my name is Velusamy. Just like the Scorpio N bears the Scorpio name, but it does not have anything commonality with the current production Scorpio, for good reasons. Because we need to take that for the next 2 decades. That's the reason we significantly reduce the weight. And then the another 2 terms that they say about frequency, stiffness, and strength. Don't get confused with that. So let me give you 2 minutes to tell you, and you will teach to everybody about frequency and stiffness. You take a glass, you drop it on the floor, it breaks. It does not have a strength. Have you ever tried to bend the glass? You would never be able to, because it is very, very stiff. That's one portion of it. Take a steel wire, and you can do everything, and you can hang. You can do everything. But have you ever tried to break the steel wire? You can never. You will break your hand. So that's strength. The strength and stiffness, if you combine it together, is what the BIW and the frame gives you. And that's wherever you are mounting the suspension, the engine, all other mountings that you are mounting, you have to make it very, very stiff. The low ideal frequency of the engine is 28 Hertz. You have to be far above than 28 Hertz, and that gives you 40 Hertz. When the stiffness is very high, you get 40 Hertz and 29 Hertz for the frame. The frame and body cannot have the same frequency that you got it, right? So I hope you understood the strength and the stiffness part of it and frequency part of it. Now, how did we get the strength differently? If you take a BIW and if you take a frame, the first order is typically called the torsional mode, and the second order is typically called the bending mode of the frequencies. You have to be significantly above to anybody else to have such a handling. What our team did was that you can have a ring structure, and all the joineries are the weakest points, and you try to join them extremely well, and that's the optimization. That's a critical observation like the Galileo's. And we have significantly enhanced the welding points because you have sheet metals and you need more welding points to behave the sheet metals in unison. And we use structural sealer between the sheet metals, and therefore they behave one unit. And the ring structure. Combined, these two gave us 13% reduction in weight, increased torsional stiffness, increased bending stiffness. That gave us the best ride in handling. The strength that I told about is the breakage of it. In the D segment car or in the C segment car, this car uses the highest percentage of high strength steel. That's about 41% and 11% for ultra high strength steel, taking to 52%. No car in this category uses such a high strength steel and galvanized steel. That takes care of the strength and the corrosion part of it. It's the same thing with frame stiffness and same thing with frame strength. And the stiffness and strength, you have to combine it together to get the best handling and ride and dynamics. In the frame, because it bears the load, we have 81% high strength steel. That comes the favorite topic of the suspension. It's a completely new suspension, front suspension and the rear suspension. Like Galileo's and Newton's found out, we found 3 parameters that makes the biggest difference in a SUV, body-on-frame SUV. Number 1, you need to have a long travel if you have a soft spring. So industry-based 225 millimeters that you can have long travel suspension. Typically you don't get it, you get it about 185, 180 millimeters. The knuckle has to be a little longer, so the geometry of the suspension, toe in, toe out, camper, caster, when you train all angles, it maintains the same. So that's the second. We have used extensively alloy material in order to reduce the unsprung masses in the suspension system, because you attach the suspension system to the frame and that's what is vibrating. And don't forget, F is equal to M into A. If you reduce 35% M, automatically you reduce the forces going to the frame to body. That's the biggest 3 critical inputs. So if you drive tomorrow, you will realize this big difference. That's in the front suspension 30 critical parameter. When it comes to the rear suspension, we made a totally different new suspension. I took the VP0 vehicle January last year, and I went in the track and I found after 150 km/h, I'm not happy. I don't want to give this to customer. We came back, we completely redesigned, and here are the changes we did. We brought pentalink. Pentalink means 5 links to the frame. The rear axle, this is where the wheel ends are mounted. The rear axle is 90 kilo weight. And the wheels, it moves up and down. And it is compressed and expanded between the frame and the rear axle by the spring. It's a heavy mass. When the vehicle goes longitudinally, you want no relative movement between the rear axle and frame, and that's where the drive takes place. And therefore you have 2 links from the axle to the frame in the longitudinal direction. In the vertical direction, you want the highest movement because that's where it absorbs all the vibrations. In the lateral movement, you don't want any movement of the axle with respect to frame. Because at high speed, 180 km/h, if you turn, if the axle moves, you had it. Panhard, which typically used in the D segment vehicles, allows the lateral movement of the axle. So we did away with that and we brought the Watt sling. Watt sling is nothing but James Watt, who founded for a steam engine in 1500 and odd years. So all that you have to do is use your grandfather's technology very carefully. And we brought the Watt sling. The Watt sling allows the axle to go up and down under lateral acceleration and never allows to slip. That you will see it when you drive tomorrow in the high speed. So those are the 3 front suspension innovations and the rear suspension innovations. That makes the ride best in handling. But how do you make it best of the best? So there are 2 critical technologies that I'm going to tell you quickly. Frequency dependent damping. Forget this name. You go on a road and you get 1 bump. You are at 60 km/h and that comes to 16 meters/second. In 16 meters, you cross in 1 second 16 meters. And if you get 1 bump input to the suspension, it's called 1 hertz. Typically, the body moves at such a low hertz input. You can also have multiple inputs, but you will watch it, the body does not move, but only the wheel moves. That's called secondary ride. That is this area. The standard dampers give you damping force only like this blue color. It does not differentiate between the low hertz and the high hertz. So what we did, we brought the technology, latest generation technology on damper that gives very high stiffness at very low hertz and holds the body, and at high hertz that you see undulations on the highway, it absorbs, it freely allows the damper to absorb the vibrations. It does not pass on to the customer. So body control and undulations observations absorption of the undulations in the highway is absolutely good with this technology, and that's why we went. Now you take only one input and you start varying the height of this input. That's the next technology. That is multi-tuned valve central line technology. What you see here is a small velocity, high and bigger one. What you need is like this. When this is smaller, you want to control the body motion, and if it is higher, you want to control the damper motion because you don't want the damper to hit. But what is available in the standard application is only this. So we went for this multi-VCL technology and we brought it. So FDD, MTVCL together takes care of the frequency and the variations in the amplitude. First time in the segment, we bring these two technologies for our customers. Power steering. In the city, 2000 kg vehicle, how do you drive? Feather light. We have a dual pinion. What's the meaning of dual pinion? Nothing. You have a strut and you have a rack and you have a pinion here, and then you have an electric motor with 110 ampere, and this electric motor is coupled to the rack, and that's another motor that gives you power. So this dual pinion gives you very precise steering and very feather light effort for the steering. NVH. In the industry, you can see the articulation index is above 100 and above 97 is way different compared to any other car in the industry because of the brand new engines and the stiffnesses and the low masses that we have in our car, both in terms of sound levels and in terms of articulation index. When you drive tomorrow, you will see it. The Daddy is very powerful, and you have 200 bhp gasoline engine and 175 bhp diesel engine with very high torque. This also comes with a four-wheel drive with multiple terrain movement modes, normal, snow, mud and sand. In all terrains you have this Explore technology, 4Explore technology that helps you to keep the traction and stability. Safety. Daddy's dent is a big dent. You have a frame and you have a body, and you don't want any forces to go to body because the body is where the door is attached and the seats are attached. So the 72% of the force is designed to go in the frame, and that deflects very small amount of length. The force that goes into the body, even if it goes to 28%, the 12% and the 2% are brought down here. So after the crash, the door can open without any deformation. It is using the high strength steel, and it will have the highest standards in the safety. What you see is the added features of the airbag, the 6 airbag. It's a typical standard airbags. You have a driver distance detection software depending on your brake pedal, accelerator pedal and the steering, that the software automatically detects if you are doing something abnormal to the driving. It gives automatically an alert to you, and the Trironics, you know it very well. The other thing that we have brought is vehicle dynamics control. The vehicle dynamics control detects your wheel slip for each wheels, and if you are trying to go away, the wheel speeds of these different wheels are different, and it applies the brake and brings back to you when you go out of control. That's called vehicle dynamic control system is applicated, rollover mitigation and traction control systems for different new surfaces. So you have all these features inbuilt, what is called dynamics control system in the drive. Let's come to Daddy's. Is Daddy from future. It has a smart core, and it has a Qualcomm 6150 chip, and it has got an 1.8 hertz gigahertz frequency and 23,000 million instructions per second capability. So it has a connected cars, it has an Alexa voice enabled what 3 words, it has navigation system, these are all standard to you, wireless charging, dual camera and multi-vision camera front and rear merged together. So it's a future tech smart core is available. It also has an immersive Sony audio system, 12 speaker system. You have a the immersive system is exactly carry over from XUV700, and you have the same experience that you are experiencing in XUV700. The dual zone FATC is a known technology that is already built in this car. Connected cars. In-car apps is the biggest thing in this car. No D-segment car has got such a heavy in-car apps. Rest, you saw my Vijay doing the remote functions. I don't explain much. So the safety, all this, you know it. In the in-car apps, I will spend some few seconds in it. So you have Triloflia that you go to any destination, it tells attractions, activities, hotels and tours. It has an AccuWeather and it has a horoscope. And India Today, Zomato, just dial in and ticker tap to know your stock market prices. So all these apps comes only in D segment Mahindra Scorpio N, not any other D segment cars or C segment cars. Oh, we have to produce it, isn't it? Such a good car, we have to produce it. And there comes a brand new TCF line, a brand new body shop where the car takes a road dip and then gets an absolutely fantastic paint, and the new body shop that gives multi-model capabilities of different varieties, giving commonality to us. Let me show some video.
The big daddy of SUVs is here.
So thank you so much, and now I invite Vijay for the wrap-up. Thank you, Vijay.
What should I say? Thank you, Dr. Velu. You know, we love to call him Dr. Velu because his presentations are so deep and he makes such a complex subject so simple for everyone to understand. So it's an honorary PhD that we've given him. Thanks, Dr. Velu. So now we move on to the section that I guess all of you all have been waiting for, which is, all right, you've told us so much about the product, what all it has. Tell us what are the variants and what's the price. And for that, I just want to rewind very quickly the start of the presentation you saw. We spoke about a disruption because it's a product that allows us to be aspirational for the C segment and offers a lot more at a super price compared to all offerings in the D segment today. So one was to kind of summarize everything that we've spoken about. We can put them into these 4 buckets of performance, refinement, presence, and technology. I'm not going to go through each one of them because I think Velu has covered it in great detail. But the way I'm going to talk you through the varianting and the pricing is in that narrative of what we spoke about, which is even the varianting strategy that we've created has offerings in each of the variants that allows it to compete with very specific opportunities that we see in the market. So to begin with, and I know most presenters begin their presentation with the entry-level variant. But today I'm going to turn it around. And we are going to start with our topmost variant on what it has to offer and where does it stand to compete. Let's have the quick audio visual on the top-end variant. So if we take a look at the top-end variant, the Z8L, that's what we call it. It's clearly a contender that we see to take on the D segment. And if you look at the overall footprint and the high command seating that the Z8L has to offer, with all those features, it makes it an extremely compelling proposition. From a width, height, Velu explained in great detail the advantage that the Scorpio N brings into the category. So let's see where does it stack up vis-a-vis the competition in the D segment. So here are the features, and again, the detailed features you saw in the video, it's a long list. You'll get all the details on the website. Just kind of culled out the key things on one single slide on one side. And I'll come back to what you see as many features in the green color there. And now let's put out the key competitor called TF, the diesel MT in this segment. And compare the specs. You will see that it's a very, very compelling proposition, whether you look at overall performance, whether you look at what we have to offer in terms of safety/technology as a package, or whether you want to talk about convenience, which comes along with a host of features from an overall sophisticated drive dynamics. So as a package, if you see what's on the left compares or is a very, very compelling proposition compared to what you see on the right. And I think, as many of you all would know, that the TF, the ex-showroom price is 34.29 lakhs. So any guesses? What do you think should be the price of the Z8L? Okay. I guess you guys are going to wait for me to reveal that, right? So it's a very, 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 yeah, you can say that again. And now you understand why I started the presentation the other way around today and not with Z2, which is the entry-level variant. So it's 19.49, which is 45% lower. It again depends how you look at numerator, denominator. And if I was to start from the left, the right side is 55% more expensive. So that's what we have to offer with the Z8L. Let's move on to the next variant, which is the Z8. Again, packed product, packed variant. But let's see the AV before I come to that. Let's have the AV, please. Again, a very, very compelling proposition. But this time around, let's try and bring it somewhere closer into the C-segment body-on-frame competitors. I mean, again, you want to compare it on footprint, you want to compare it on space, you want to compare it on command seating. Very, very compelling proposition. So again, you'll see our features on the left, and then we'll talk a little bit about competition. Very compelling proposition, again, has got everything. Most of what you saw on the Z8L is on offer, even on the Z8. You know, whether you talk about the zip, zap, zoom drive modes, which normally is, you know, kind of things kept only for the optional variant. Not going to talk again, but the whole sophisticated ride handling, LED fog lamps, leatherette seats. And in this proposition also, it comes with a combination of sunroof and Adrenox. Now, one would have expected that only in the top end, but we also have it on the Z8. And if we were to compare it again with our competition in the sort of C segment of body on frame, and here is the competition, which is TIC. You can compare it again on all the specs, whether you talk about performance, whether you talk about these features. Clearly something that we offer significantly higher than what the competition has to offer. And the price of that particular variant, the TIC VX Diesel MT of competition, is 22.84. And the Scorpio N Z8 Diesel MT is at a price of 17.49. Again, significantly lower. I mean, from a value point of view, it's 4.5 lakhs. That's a lot. That's a lot. I also want to kind of compare this with the monocoque segment, which obviously, as we all know today, is a significant segment size, number of models, competitors available over there. But again, before we do that, and before we move into the Z6 and the Z4s, let's have the audiovisual on the next variant. So you can see even the Z6 and Z4 have a lot to offer. And again, as we move in, when you start comparing it to other C-segment monocoque SUVs, this time around we want to compare it with another formidable competitor. And what we are going to share with you is how the Z6 and Z4 as two variant strategies work together. You saw the video, the Z6, Z4 both have a lot to offer. As far as the powertrain is concerned, on the Z6 it's at 175 PS. On the Z4 it's 132. Has a host of other features which is available, including the touchscreen, the Adrenox, all of it available up to the Z6 variant. Z4 variant comes with the 20.32 centimeter touchscreen, Android Auto, CarPlay, second row AC. So again, as we move to the Z4, we've retained a lot of comfort, convenience, and technology features for our customers, even for the Z4 variant. And when you compare it with the TS, the equivalent XM diesel MT variant, you can clearly see from the features and specs what we have as an offering in both the Z6 and Z8 variant, significantly higher than competition. Here, as compared to the ex-showroom price of 16.69, we'll share the price of both the Z4 and the Z6 with you. And the Z6 is at 14.99 and the Z4 at 13.99. So I think the prices will speak for themselves and significantly competitive in terms of what we have to offer. And of course, we also have the Z2 variant. And the Z2 is what we believe will also compete with the mass segment. But again, here, another important competitor to look at against when we look at the Z6 and the Z4, as we move into comparing it with mass-based monocoque products from a size, scale, presence, design, features, significantly ahead. And here, as we put out the variants to compare, you will see, again on the left, we have our Z6 and the Z4 variants, which I'm putting out there again for you. And on the right side, you will see the competition called KS, with its HTX diesel MT variant at 15.29, and you had already seen the prices of 14.99 and 13.99. So extremely compelling in terms of prices. And finally, let's come to the Z2 variant. When you look at the Z2 variant with mainstream SUVs, again in terms of the competitor KS, performance significantly better, price 12.39 and 13.99, and the Z2 is at 12.49. That's the Z2 diesel price. I'm also now going to share with you very quickly, as the mainstream in this segment is gasoline, where we stand with petrol. And for here, on these slides, while the press release, the website will have the pricing of petrol variants in the remaining variants too, at Z2 petrol MT and Z4 petrol MT, the prices as compared to 11.25, that's 11.99 and 13.49. So the entry-level variant of Z2 is at 11.99 and 12.49. So finally, to put it all in perspective, that's what you have, the lineup of our variants, going from Z2 all the way to Z8L. Two important things. We will announce the price of the automatic transmissions and the four-wheel drive variants on 21st July, because as you heard in the webcast, we open test drives on 5th in the top 30 cities, by 15th rest of the country. We open bookings on 30th. We are giving a 2-week window to our customers to change their variant after they experience the product. You know, it's our customer-centric approach, because we've realized that whenever you launch a new model, there are many times the customers want to change because they're not very sure what they want to buy. So we've given them an adequate window, and hence keeping in mind that we open bookings on 30th and there is a 2-week window, we'll be announcing the prices of the automatic transmission and the four-wheel drive on 21st of July. And another very important point, these launch prices are applicable for the first 25,000 bookings. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's reveal the Scorpio N to you. Thank you.
SUVs is here.